that's kind of a theme for what I want to talk to you about. We're bringing you in, and I'm planning on having you in frequently here as we lead up to the
Mhm.
draft. So just get ready for it. But where else would we start but quarterback? And this is obviously a draft where several of them are going to go very highly. It's
Mhm.
entirely possible the first four picks in this draft could all be quarterbacks. So here's what I want to do. We're going to talk some Caleb Williams in a minute. That's always going to be interesting. But for the purposes of this, I feel very confident saying he's going to
Mhm.
go number one. I feel very confident saying he's going to be a Chicago Bear. So
Mhm.
let's put Caleb on the back burner for at least a few minutes. And I want to talk to you about a story that you wrote for us on foxsports.com last week. You can check it out, foxsports.com, the Fox Sports app. Bucky Brooks, you kind of made the case for the other three guys: Jayden Daniels of LSU, Drake
Mhm.
Maye of UNC, JJ McCarthy of Michigan. You kind of made the case for all of those guys as the next quarterback drafted. So I want to go through that with you.
Mhm.
Where better to start with a Tar Heel like yourself than Drake Maye? Because I want to be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised that there's as much debate as there is. Like, coming out of college football season, I thought it was pretty clear cut. And that's even with my guy Jayden
Mhm.
Daniels winning the Heisman Trophy. I thought it was pretty clear cut that Drake Maye was QB2, but it seems like there's a fair amount of pushback on that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, there should be a fair amount of pushback because heading into the season, everyone thought it was going to be the Caleb Williams versus Drake Maye conversation. Drake Maye had a spectacular first season as a starter with the Tar Heels. I mean, he lit it up. He had 35 touchdowns with 3,500 yards. He rushed for over 600 yards, had over 7 rushing touchdowns. He was everything that you want to see in the modern dual threat quarterback. I mean, he could give you what you wanted to see from the pocket, but also had the athleticism to extend plays, to make things happen on design quarterback runs. He was fantastic. Then you play this season, and it's not the same. New offensive coordinator, new supporting cast around him. He appeared to be pressing from all the pressure that was on him, kind of trying to show people that he's really QB1, and he didn't really play well. Now, that said, him not playing well still featured a lot of moments where you could grade the flashes and see big time arm talent, uh, tremendous athleticism, had the improvisational playmaking ability that everyone wants in a quarterback now. So the creativity was there, but he was just so hot and cold. And to be honest, he didn't play well in the big games that were on the calendar. So everyone on the schedule wanted to see how is he going to play against Clemson. Clemson's been the bully of the block uh, in the last few years in the ACC. Didn't really perform very well. And then, Georgia Tech game they lose, didn't really get it going, played well against Duke, but can you say that that is enough to cement his status? And so you end up leaving with more questions than answers his second season. And because of that, he opened the door for other quarterbacks like a Jayden Daniels, for a JJ McCarthy, who outperformed him on the field, even though he may be the better NFL projection.
Which, I mean, I think that's the toughest thing to answer when you're talking about quarterbacks. And you can apply it to all four of these guys. You look at Caleb Williams, his 2023 season, not as amazing as the one where he won the Heisman. And you look and you say, oh, well, Jordan Addison was off to the NFL. What about this USC offensive line? Jayden Daniels, you say, yeah, anybody could succeed with these two top 20 receivers on their offense. And you apply it to Drake Maye, JJ McCarthy as well. How do you separate the supporting cast or lack thereof in the case of
Mm.
Drake Maye when you're trying to evaluate just how good of a prospect this guy is?
Yeah, it becomes a challenge. Like obviously, Jaden Daniels had an all-star supporting cast, like two guys that are certified first-round picks on the perimeter. But Joe Burrow also had first-round guys, so you got to be able to separate the play from what the assist they get from the people on the outside. I think a lot of it is when you're looking at them, how much do you feel their presence in the game? Do you feel Drake May have an impact on the game, positively or negatively, when he has the ball in his hands? Does he appear to have the ability to put the offense on his back in key moments? Because ultimately, quarterbacks are judged down in how they perform in those gotta have it situations. So those situations would be third down, 2 minute, red zone, end of game. How do they perform in those moments? And too often for Drake May, it was a little clunky. It wasn't what you expect it to be for someone as talented as he is. That said, when people look at the offense, like coaches have said, man, I just don't know what they were doing offensively in terms of the rhyme or reasoning behind some of the decisions that they made from a schematic standpoint. Could they have done a better job of lightening the load on him by running the ball more and doing some things that would allow him to have some more layups baked into the cake? So, as much as you want to take him to task for not playing well, you also can take the coaching staff to task for maybe not setting him up to have the kind of success that he had the previous season.
So I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm excited about Drake May, I think the reason is just because of that very Josh Allen-y sort of skill set.
Yeah.
The athleticism combined. I mean, if you're new to this, which I doubt you are if you're listening to this
Hmm.
podcast, but go turn on some highlights of Drake May and just watch the ball come out of this guy's hand. So that just physical skill set is what gets you excited about Drake May. If you're nervous about it, if you don't view him as QB2, is it the tendency to play hero ball? Is it, like you mentioned, maybe not showing up in the biggest moments? What is the biggest thing that gives you pause about him?
Okay, so I would say the biggest thing would be the lack of experience. So when you dig deep into Drake May's journey, Drake May didn't play the final season of his high school career because of COVID. He sat behind Sam Howell his freshman year because Sam Howell was the dude. And then he played the final 2 years. So of the last 4 years, he's really only played two of them. Now you begin to talk about the guys that have flamed out in the league recently. They've been the guys who don't have a lot of college experience, a lot of collegiate starts. So with 26 starts, he enters the league, and is that enough for him to be ready to play right away? Depending on where he lands, he may not have the luxury of being able to redshirt and sit behind a veteran and learn how to play the game on the side before he has to get into the game. So I'm a little worried about the inexperience. I'm worried about the streakiness, but I think some of the things when it comes to his streakiness can be fixed because the flashes are so high that you have to give him credit for making these spectacular plays. Can you kind of raise his floor where he's more consistent and he delivers time after time? Some coaches will say, yeah, that's coaching. That's part of making sure that we put him in a system that really works to his skill set, surrounding with high level players, and he won't be tasked with doing some of the things he was asked to do at North Carolina. It's really a matter, are you willing to do the evaluation on the production, or are you willing to really trust your instincts on the projection?
Maybe I'm just a sucker for too many highlight reels, but the flashes are just incredibly intriguing. It's hard to not get excited about that. All right, let's move on to my guy, the LSU Tiger. Which,
Yeah.
hey, one thing I'm going to tell you right now, we cannot say experience is a problem for Jayden Daniels. My man started 55 college games. Obviously, the athletic ability, I mean, just a playmaker from anywhere on the field. I mean, the guy had more explosive plays as a runner and as a thrower than you could count at LSU. Like I said, I mean, the dual threat ability,
Mhm.
what, a
Mhm.
thousand rushing yards last year on top of his passing profile, that speaks for itself. If you're not sold on Jayden Daniels as QB2, what do you think is the reason why?
Okay, so for all the positive things that Jayden Daniels brings, look, he's the only quarterback in college football history with 12,000 pass yards and 3,000 rush yards. You talk about the Heisman Trophy season. Anyone who caught a glimpse of him versus Florida in the SEC, just seeing him dominate the game, 300 passing, 200 rushing, a bunch of wow plays that just made you just kind of look, sit at the edge of your seat and just imagine what he could do at the next level. When you watch him throw it from the pocket, man, he throws dime after dime after dime. Touch, timing, and accuracy. He has all of those things. He can do it on the move, but really, he is his most comfortable in the pocket. And as you watched him progress from a streaky playmaker at Arizona State to being very consistent under Brian Kelly at LSU, there are a lot of positives when it comes to his development. The criticism that you have for Jay Daniels, number one thing, when you look at him, slender build, and you wonder immediately, durability, is that going to be an issue? Even though he logged 55 career starts, you just wonder, can that frame hold up if he gets outside the pocket and takes hits? Remember, we questioned Bryce Young and what we thought he would be at the next level just because of the size and diminutive frame. So just the slender frame is one thing. Also, what was the big difference between how he played at Arizona State and how he played at LSU. Is it the supporting cast was better, so his numbers are a bit inflated because he played with better players? Why wasn't he able to kind of put it together for multiple seasons at a high level? Even though like his first season at LSU was solid, it certainly wasn't what it was last year when he won the Heisman Trophy. I think those questions are: is it scheme or is it supporting cast? More so, is it the talent that Jayden Daniels brings on his own accord?
I do think like it's funny, and I'm not the guy to ask. I'm probably a little too close to the situation. Jayden Daniels was good in 2022. Like he was a little
Mhm,
inconsistent. I think he was a little less willing to take chances as a passer, but overall
mhm.
still a very solid college quarterback. One thing I wanted to get your opinion on. I've seen this on social media that people critique Jayden for being unwilling or unable to throw over the middle of the field, and I don't think I buy that. I know he had
Mhm,
two amazing receivers in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. who could stretch the field, but I think if
mhm.
you go back and watch what LSU did, you see a guy who can make those throws when he needs to. Like you said, he's got plenty of good tape from inside the pocket.
In fact, I think he's at his best inside the pocket. I think you could probably make the case that he is the best timing rhythm quarterback in the draft, even better than Caleb Williams when it comes to just throwing on time and doing it as the coaches draw it up on the whiteboard. He does all of those things. And if we're really being honest when it comes to quarterback play, the most difficult thing that most people struggle with is throwing outside the numbers. That's the farther throw. That's the one where you get the one-on-one coverage and you have to throw out breaking routes towards the sideline. Lamar Jackson couldn't do that stuff at Louisville. Even now, everything for Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy in breaking over the middle of the field, shortest line between 2 points, straight line. So it's right there over the middle. For Jayden Daniels, being able to throw in traffic, I don't see it as an issue, particularly working over the middle of the field. I think he has anticipation, he has superb timing, all of those things. In fact, I think he's more of a dink and dunk intermediate assassin than being someone that is just loading up for the deep ball and doing those things. That gives him an opportunity to have success in the right system. And so as we play matchmaker, I think system fit is everything when it comes to Jayden Daniels.
Intermediate assassin is my new favorite phrase for this draft cycle. Real quickly, and then we'll move on to the last of these three. But if Jayden Daniels were to slip, or let's say he doesn't go two,
Mhm.
maybe he even slips a few more spots. Do you think it's more because of the frame? Because he is, I mean, there's no way around it. He is a slight guy going to the NFL. Or do you think teams look at it and say, this guy's going to turn 24 during his rookie year? He's played 55 college games. Maybe he's closer to his ceiling already than some of these other less developed quarterbacks.
I wonder about that because like that's kind of been the new thing, right? When everyone's talking about experience and ceiling and kind of want more. It's almost like a baseball thing, right? In baseball, they want the young guy that can kind of get it done or whatever. And so talk about Jay Daniels being 24, Brock Purdy, I just looked, is 24 years old. I don't think it's an issue. I don't think the age thing is an issue. I think the slender build is more of an issue. And my reference to Brock Purdy is because Brock Purdy, the seventh round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, played a ton of games, had a lot of starts at Iowa State. I think he had like 49, maybe he had 30 or so wins when he was at Iowa State. And the success that he has had and the success that others have had with long resumes of being able to play, I think that plays in his favor. So, yeah, the criticism will be okay, he's a little older in his class. So maybe he was a man amongst boys, but the experience is actually what you wanted to position because when I went back and tracked the number of guys that have played really well early in their careers at the position, all of those guys lost significant snaps. To Andrew Luck, to Donovan McNabb's, they all kind of did it. Peyton Manning, they all did 40 plus snaps, 40 plus starts in college. I think that's a recipe for success because you got to see the game, you got to play the game to get better at the game. He enters the league probably being the best college football player that could be because he saw so many different things.
Yeah, I don't think I buy that having a more complete picture of a guy is a bad thing, which let's wrap it up among the big four. The guy that has the probably the least complete picture, I think
Mhm.
anyway. And I mean, look, JJ McCarthy, one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in Michigan history. Wolverine fans, don't come for me. He won a national title. He did everything he needed to do at Michigan. But the bottom line is that they just did not ask as much of him as what we've seen from these other guys. That's the note on him. I saw in your story on
Mhm.
foxsports.com 713 pass attempts across his career. That's 28 starts. On top of that, I went back and looked at it, Bucky. He threw 32 passes during the fourth quarter and overtime of his final season at Michigan. That is how dominant the Wolverines were, that they just didn't need him that often at the end of these games. I will point out he balled in the fourth quarter and
Mhm.
overtime against Alabama. He was a big part of the reason why they won that
Mhm.
semifinal game. But the point is still, we just haven't seen a whole lot of this guy in these situations. So can you just help me fill in the blanks on JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, so JJ McCarthy benefits from being what we call winner guy. He's a guy that won at a high level, 27-1, national champion, led his team to the college football playoff. And even though people will take him to task for being maybe the game manager as opposed to the playmaker, I think there are a lot of positives to that. Imagine being a highly decorated recruit and you choose to go to a school where you know you're not going to throw the football. Your main role is going to be to take the ball, hand it in the belly of the running back, and get out of the way. Every now and then, they'll give you a few crumbs where you can throw the ball around the yard, but it won't be the driving force of the offense. I think he benefits from being the guy who has already done that. I'm gonna manage the game. I'm gonna take my ego out of it. The only thing that matters to me is winning. The other part that he benefits, he's the only one that has an NFL uh, player and coach who has developed quarterbacks coaching him, whispering those sweet nothings in his ear for 3+ years, where he's been able to learn from the guy who taught Andrew Luck how to play at a high level, the guy who resurrected Alex Smith, the guy who discovered and made Colin Kaepernick a real thing in this league. Jim Harbaugh's endorsement of JJ McCarthy, not only as the greatest quarterback in Michigan, knowing that Tom Brady and Brian Greasy played there, but also being able to say, oh, no, I think he's the number one quarterback in this draft. When you have Jim Harbaugh rubber stamping JJ, it makes you go back and think, hey, are we missing something because he didn't stuff the stat sheet? This guy has one. Let's look at his third down tape. Oh, man, he's really impressive on third down when it's got to have it. You talked about he delivered in the college football playoff when they played against Alabama and they needed to put it on his back. So there's a lot of positives when it comes to JJ McCarthy because the intangibles are right, the winning pedigree is right, the talent you see. He is very similar to me to Alex Smith when Alex Smith was coming out of Utah and the way that Alex Smith played when he got with Jim Harbaugh and how he continued to play when he got with Andy Reid. Environment, circumstances are everything when it comes to JJ McCarthy because he has the right stuff to play well as the manager, the managerial type, but it has to be the right situation for him to be able to play that way.
When you say that, do you think, and I mean, let's be clear, like virtually all of these guys could probably benefit from a year off, but that's just not the way the NFL
Mhm.
works anymore. But do you see JJ McCarthy as a guy who could potentially redshirt? I mean, I know a lot of people are going to tie him
Mhm.
to Minnesota, and that seems like it
Mhm.
makes sense because Sam Darnold is at least a guy who can get you through the first half of the season, if not an entire season. Do you think that is a sort of circumstance where maybe he benefits from sitting behind somebody at least for a little bit?
I think whenever we talk about JJ McCarthy, I think we have to tie JJ McCarthy with Drake Maye because their experiences are similar. Both of those guys need to be in a place where if they need to redshirt, they can redshirt. So the two situations that you have that are really like that, New England, because Jacoby Brissett has been a starter, he's played reasonably well when he's had an opportunity to play. So in New England, no one has to rush onto the field. Same could be said for Sam Darnold in Minnesota when you have Kevin O'Connell and those things. Both of those guys could benefit from being able to sit behind an established veteran who could play winning football, learn how to win the game, how to play, I would say, pro football the right way. With only 20 starts, I mean, man, it's tough to throw them right in there. So, yeah, JJ McCarthy and Drake Maye could probably benefit from sitting on the sidelines for a little bit before they play. And I will say this, the common denominator between the guys that sit, because I want you to think about even Carson Palmer back in yesteryear sat behind
Yeah.
John Kitna, But the thing about the guys that sit and play, by the end of the third year, we know. So Phillip Rivers, Carson Palmer sat those first years. Carson Palmer sat one, Phillip Rivers sat two. But by the end of their third season, they were Pro Bowl players. So it's about identifying the talent, but also making sure you have enough consistency within the organization that you know this is going to be our guy, and we have to kind of like slow cook the grits. We're okay slow cooking them. We ain't got to put them out there right away. No instant grits.